Hey everyone, welcome to another Deck Tech. This is week 3 of our Temur Delver Adventures in Modern. We've already covered Temur Hex Delver, Temur Traverse Delver, and today we're going to be looking at Temur Uro Delver. So, obviously, given the name, we are packing Uro in this deck, and we're looking at the core right now. Of course, Delver of Secrets is going to be in there. Of course, Tarmogoyf is going to be in there. I don't really have much to say about these cards that I haven't already said in the previous deck techs. Obviously, Delver of Secrets is going to be a 4 of, and Tarmogoyf is always going to be a 4 of. They're pretty much pivotal in any competitive version of Temur Delver in Modern. And, you know, Delver of Secrets is going to be your ultimate tempo card, attacking in the air. Tarmogoyf is going to be your ultimate ground beast, you know, either attacking in or keeping your opponent's creatures at bay, because Tarmogoyf gets pretty big, and this deck is designed to make it as big as possible. So let's take a look at Uro instead. So we're playing 4 of course, because we are fully committing to Uro in this. And, I mean, do I really need to explain to you what Uro does? I don't think I need to. So Uro is going to come into the battlefield, and you're going to have to sacrifice it if you're not escaping it. But when it does, you're going to gain 3 life, you're going to draw a card, and you're going to put a land onto the battlefield from your hand if you have one. That's pretty darn good for 3 mana. Then, when it's in your graveyard, and you have enough in your graveyard, so you need to have essentially 5 cards plus Uro, you get to escape it, assuming you have the mana, which you should by that point. And when you escape it, you cast it from your graveyard, it comes onto the battlefield. This time it stays, it becomes a 6/6 creature, and it does the same thing again. You gain 3 life, you draw a card, you put a land onto the battlefield if you have one, and then every time it attacks, it does the exact same thing. So I mean, awesome card. I don't think it's completely broken, but I mean, obviously its power level is extremely pushed. It's the reality of Magic today. Everything is pushed. We saw what happened with Omnath in Standard. It got banned within 2 weeks of being released, which is stupid, by the way. I can't believe that a game designer thinks that it's okay and logical to do that, but that's a separate conversation. So we're running 4 of. It definitely increases the power level of Temur Delver in Modern. And I mean, at this point, I would almost say this would be the preferred version to play if you are playing competitively on MTGO or on paper. Uro just really helps you round out the deck. It pushes it to that next level where you become even more of a threat to your opponents, and everything else in the deck just complements this creature base. So, I mean, I don't think I need to get into any more details about Uro here. It's an awesome card. You're going to run 4 of. It's going to help you win out mid-range games. It's going to help you win out burn games and aggro games because of that 3 life gain every time. Drawing multiples is not a bad thing. Yeah, it's just overall a great card. Now, moving on from core to the other creatures in this deck, the only other creature that we're running here is a 4 of Stormwing Entity. So not only are we fully committing to Uro, we're also fully committing to Stormwing Entity, which means we're also running Manamorphose. You'll see that in a minute. So Stormwing Entity attacks in the air. It's a flying prowess 3/3 creature that enters when it enters the battlefield. You get to scry 2, which is very, very good, and you are almost always certainly casting it for 2 mana, 1 blue, 1 colorless. You don't want to be casting Stormwing Entity for 5, because that's not why we're playing it. We're playing it because, in theory, on turn 2, you can cast this, and that's incredible. You win on everything here. Tempo, threat, everything. It dodges Fatal Push, which means your opponent's going to have to bolt it or use some other creature removal to get rid of it. And it's an incredible creature to have in the air. You always have spells to cast, or you always have spells to cast to help power it up, to maybe dodge Lightning Bolt. And don't forget, it also enables Ferocious on your Stubborn Denial, because when you cast Stubborn Denial, the Prowess trigger goes on the stack and it resolves first. So by the time Stubborn Denial resolves, Ferocious is active because of Prowess Stormwing Entity. So it's just a great creature. It increases the power level, in my opinion, even more on top of Uro already being in this list, and I think it's a great card to complement the deck. So let's move on to Permission. Like I was talking about, Stubborn Denial. I don't think I would be playing Temur Delver in any competitive way if I wasn't playing a 4-of Stubborn Denial. It's just an amazing card. Modern has a ton of non-creature spells that you do not want to resolve, and Stubborn Denial stops them all, and it's almost always a 1-mana counterspell for non-creature spells, essentially, which is super powerful. It helps you win permission battles, it helps you beat out removal, you know, it allows you to use your mana efficiently. And remember, Temur Delver is all about efficient resource control, resource management. You have to be efficient in every play to win the game. That's just how it is. That's the challenge of this deck. You need to be efficient with your mana, you need to be efficient with your life. Don't forget, your life is also a resource, and you need to be efficient with your graveyard. So Stubborn Denial really helps the deck out. It's an awesome card. Mana Leak is the best you're going to get, in my opinion, for 2 in terms of consistency. For 2 mana, it's always going to tell your opponent you got to pay 3 more for whatever spell they're playing. Oftentimes, it's just a counter spell in the early game, which is great. It's what you want. And in the late game, you're going to have to use it a bit more, you know, intelligently, or you might just have to stop relying on it. You know, it'll probably be useless against removal spells in the later game because your opponent already has enough mana. You know, they're probably gonna have 4 mana to be able to pay 1 for Fatal Push or Path to Exile, and then pay 3 for your Mana Leak. So it's really at most you would, you know, time walk your opponent because then they have no other mana to play spells that turn. But you know, Mana Leak, again, very important card. Like I said, early game it's a counter spell, so I definitely play at least 2. Here I'm playing 3, but you can play around depending on what else you're playing in the deck. Force of Negation, again, I'm always going to tell you this. I have a strong bias for Force of Negation. So I'm always going to probably play 4 of. The only time I play less is when I'm playing more Disrupting Shoals in the deck as well, because then it gets kind of, you know, too pitch heavy. But yeah, Force of Negation is an awesome card. It's the Force of Will of Modern, and that's not an overstatement. If anything, it's an understatement. It really helps us, again, win permission battles, and again, it helps us use our resources more efficiently. So instead of keeping mana up, you know, to potentially counter a spell that you know your opponent's going to cast next turn, you don't have to. You just need Force of Negation and another blue spell. So if the spells you're worried about are non-creature spells, you can tap out more frequently because you know you have an answer to them worst case. Whereas before Force of Negation was printed, you would very often have to hold your mana, because you are predicting that your opponent is going to cast a spell that you need to counter next turn, and then sometimes they do, and you counter it, and you win, and sometimes they don't, and essentially you kind of half time walk yourself there because you didn't cast another spell that you could have. So Force of Negation, again, is a great card in my opinion. I think it should be played more often in Modern, or at least in Temur Delver, and when I am playing Temur Delver, it's there. So we get to the removal. Lightning Bolt is Lightning Bolt. It's 3 damage for 1 mana, boom, done. Tarfire is there because of the tribal subtype. So remember, Tarmogoyf grows because of the card types that you have in the graveyard. Tarfire counts as an instant, and it separately counts as a tribal. So if you cast Tarmogoyf and the only card in your graveyard is a Tarfire, actually, if the only card in all graveyards is a Tarfire, your Tarmogoyf is already a 2/3 because it's a tribal and an instant. Oftentimes you have a land, so that means your Tarmogoyf is a 3/4, and your opponent probably already has a sorcery in their graveyard, or you already have a sorcery in your graveyard, so it becomes a 4/5, and then creatures hit the graveyard, and then planeswalkers hit the graveyard, and artifacts hit the graveyard, and you have a really, really big Tarmogoyf, and that's really the only reason why I'm playing Tarfire in this deck, is to help round out that Tarmogoyf size. Let's go on to the cantrips. So Serum Visions, of course, is always there. It's always a 4 of. It's probably the best cantrip in Modern in terms of, that utility, drawing a card and scrying 2. Very, very, very important, very, very powerful turn 1 play. Manamorphose is here because of Storming Entity. I mean, yes, you draw a card, it's essentially a free spell. It only sucks when you gets countered because you get basically huge major time walked. So it's a card that you do not want to get countered. Trust me, when it gets countered, you feel so dumb, you feel so bad. But oftentimes your opponents will not counter Manamorphose, in which case that's a good sign for you. You draw your card, and ideally, using the 2 mana that you gain from Manamorphose, you cast your Storming Entity. So very often your turn 2 play is going to be land drop number 2, Manamorphose, Storming Entity, and Scry 2 on top of it. So it almost acts like a 2 mana Serum Visions plus Stormwing Entity. So it's just, again, tempo game, you're winning, and pressure on your opponent, you're winning. Because, again, there aren't that many flyers in Modern. Most decks don't pack many flyers or flyers at all. So oftentimes, your Stormwing Entity is going to be flying in the air, unencumbered, dealing damage to your opponent, and you can pump it up most turns with other spells. So again, Metamorphose is really great here. You definitely want 4 of if you're running a full commitment to Stormwing Entity. And then Sleight of Hand. It's a very good cantrip, not the best, not the worst. In this deck, getting to look at the top 2 cards and choosing one can be very powerful. It can help you round out your land drops. It can help you find that necessary, removal spell or counter spell. It gives you the option, whereas Serum Visions is a bit more draw a card. You don't have a choice on what card you draw, and then scry 2, and you're going to have to wait at least a turn to benefit from that scry. So Sleight of Hand is a bit more powerful in the sense that it's more instant gratification or instant reward. The lands, nothing's changed. I don't know what else to tell you. Nothing's changed. If you've seen the other 2 deck techs that I've already posted up, nothing's changed. It's the exact same mana base. It's bulletproof. I don't think I've changed it really in 5 years. So this is the mana base. You go with this. And I'll say it here in case you haven't seen me in previous videos. I am not a fan of lands that don't do what I need them to do immediately. Okay, so Botanical Sanctum, Spirebluff Canal, those cards are played legitimately by many Temur Delver pilots. I personally do not like them. I try and shy away from them when I can, because oftentimes you're going to draw it as your 4th land, and you're not going to be able to play it right away, and you know what? I don't like that. I want my 4th land when I get it. So my fetches, my shocks, they allow me to play my mana the way I want to play it immediately, and it's just how it works. That's why you see the lands in front of you. Sideboard, so if you haven't already, I have a Temur sideboard tech video that seems to be relatively liked, which is great. It's a long video, but I go in depth on all of your sideboard options when you're playing Temur, any kind of Temur in Modern. So I'm going to go through these really, really quickly, but if you want something more in depth and to see what your options are in terms of, if you want to play a Braid, what can you play in a Braid's place? If you don't want to play Pyroclasm, what do you want to play in Pyroclasm's place? All of that is discussed in this one big sideboard tech video. I'll link it in the description. I think it's worthwhile if you're serious about being competitive in this format. But quickly, Pyroclasm for this game, because we're also playing Stormwing Entity and we're playing Uro, I feel like a lot of our creatures, we just have a lot of creatures that are going to survive Pyroclasm, and we have a lot of threats in general in this deck. We have 16 threats. Usually you're playing 14, sometimes less. So, I think Pyroclasm makes a bit more sense here, and dealing 2 damage to all creatures really helps you with a lot of the aggro decks that would concern you, like humans early on and burn, or red aggro, whatever it may be. Surgical Extraction, I mean, it's great. You do run Uro here, and your graveyard is going to be a very important resource. So I'm trying to shy away from Grafdigger's Cage, because Grafdigger's Cage will shut down Uro, obviously. So I'm choosing Surgical Extraction instead. I'm very soft to Dredge and other graveyard-heavy decks with this sideboard, so you might have to adjust accordingly depending on your meta. Reality Shift is a card I'm enjoying so far. It's Blue's Path to Exile, essentially. It's as good as you're going to get in Blue, or in Temur in general, in terms of getting rid of a creature that that's not damage based. So I'm really liking Reality Shift so far. I can deal with a 2/2 creature token on the battlefield. Like, I'm okay with that. Pyroclasm can take care of it worst case, or I could just chump it with my huge Tarmogoyf. So I don't really care, but Reality Shift, being able to exile a creature, is great. Blood Moon, you always play Blood Moon. Why are you not playing more Blood Moons? If I could, I would play 6. Well, no, actually, no, I wouldn't. But 3 Blood Moons I think is perfectly fine in sideboard. Helps you take down greedy mana bases. Veil of Summer is legal, and I'm going all out on Veil of Summer in this sideboard. I'm playing 4. Usually I play 2 to 3, but given the other composition of my sideboard, I stuck with 4 on Veil of Summer. And finally, a Braid. Destroy artifact or deal 3 damage to target creature, oftentimes killing that creature. It's a very good card. Again, if you want more, look at the sideboard tech video. Finally, the matchups. So against combo, this is more or less this version of Temur Delver is more or less going to be the same as all the other previous versions that I've deck tech so far. you know, you have a very strong permission package, you have Force of Negation, Stubborn Denial, Mana Leak, and you can bring in other cards in the sideboard if you're really in a combo heavy meta. You also have Blood Moon to take down Primeval Titan or lands in general. So I think you have a pretty good matchup against most combo decks. You know, I would say above 50%, generally speaking. So yeah, I think combo is very, very good here. But that's true for all teamer, in my opinion. Aggro decks, you do much better with this deck because of Uro and also because of Storming Entity. Again, Storming Entity is gonna cause havoc for your opponent because it's flying in the air. So it doesn't matter how many stupid little creatures they put on the battlefield, it's gonna fly over them. It's gonna be soft to most of aggro's removal, like Path to Exile, Lightning Bolt. But again, you can try and protect your Storming Entity that way. And you know what? If they're targeting your Storming Entity and not your Tarmogoyf or your Uro, then whatever. It's okay. It could be a Lightning Rod. There's a Lightning Strike in the photo, in the art of Storming Entity. So, you know, it's its fault. But generally speaking, I think our match win rate improves against aggro decks, mostly thanks to Uro, because you have life gain in the main. As you notice in the sideboard, I have no life gain cards because you're running 4 Uros anyway. I don't think you need any more than that. So I think our matchup against aggro is much better with this version of Temur Delver. Big mana, nothing much changes here. What really helps is that you do have Uro, so if you are facing down very large Eldrazi and you don't have Reality Shift in your hand to exile them, Uro will help you, you know, keep those Eldrazi at bay, helps you gain life in the process. So I think your E-Tron matchups are going to go up. Not necessarily much else is going to change, though, because at the end of the day, you still have the same weaknesses to big mana. But again, you have Force of Negation to hopefully, you know, counter those Karns and those Ugins, and Blood Moon to kind of slow that down or shut that down altogether. It's really going to be a race. But what benefits us here is that we do have Uro, and that's big. And, you know, also Storming Entity is something they won't be able to deal with very easily, flying in the air each turn. Not Magic. Again, not much changes. It's the same. The only problem with Not Magic with the Uro deck is that Grathdigger's Cage, like I said, shuts down Uro. So if you're really having an issue with, I was about to say Dredge, Not Magic, yeah, that's going to be a trade-off you're going to have to think about, or you might have to bring in some other type of graveyard hit like Tormod's Crypt or Relic of Progenitus, where it's a bit more selective. And, you know, I would probably bring in Tormod's Crypt, in my opinion, or Soul Guide Lantern, something that targets your opponent's graveyard only because you don't want to target your own. That's just a matter of fact. So I think you're even softer to Not Magic with this version of Temur Delver. But you could get around it. Just Grathdigger's Cage, which is your usual, you know, blanket killer for Dredge, I said Dredge, whatever, is not really an option here. Control, again, not much changes, except that, again, you have more threats here. So even if Control really gets rid of a lot of your early threats, you know, Delver, Tarmogoyf, Storming Entity, you have a lot to do. You know, you're going to be drawing a lot. And, you know, Uro is going to be something they're going to have to think about as well. And, you know, so again, I think overall, not much is going to change in your control matchup. I still think it's 50-50 at best, which is fine. I mean, that's an okay matchup. You know, so yeah. I mean, that's all I really have to say. Dealing with Stormforged Mystic, you know, you're gonna have to bring in your Artifact Hate from the side, and then ideally, you know, kill Stormforged Mystic early on before it gets to tap and cheat an artifact. Mid range. Again, not much changes here, but I think we do much better against mid-range. Again, if they're going to be discarding your Uro, who cares, really? But yeah, mid-range overall, I think you were doing much better with this deck. I think I usually say 50-50, but no, you're doing, I think our odds increase with this iteration of Uro, at least in my experience, with this iteration of Temur Delver. So yeah, our mid-range game is much better. Again, mostly because of Uro. Storming Entity really helps, but Uro is really pushing the power level there, and that's just how it is. So that's it for Temur Uro Delver. I hope you check out this deck. I'm going to be posting up 3 matches today of my, you know, some of my experience I've had with Temur Uro Delver and Modern. So stay tuned for those, and yeah, tell me what you think in the comment section down below. Did I miss something? You know, keep in mind there are many ways you can build a Temur Delver deck, but I'm trying to introduce to you all through this series of videos you know, the main themes, the main archetypes of Temur Delver, and then you can take that and, you know, build on it yourself, which is a fun part of Magic. I love brewing, I love building decks, I love tweaking them, and I hope you enjoy some of that as well. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy my content in general, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow me on Twitter. All that stuff really helps me out a lot. A big thank you to my patrons and their support. I've recently upgraded the tiers of my Patreon, so check that out. I'm essentially promising patrons of many tiers, you know, a giveaway win every year, because if you're a patron long enough, I will send you, you know, up to 12 rares and mythics that I open on screen with an emphasis on non-bulk to your door. I'll pay for the stamps and everything, and a large portion of my patrons will also be lucky enough to win like a large value card that I open up on screen. When I mean large value, I mean, you know, $50 plus. So this is something that's me for patrons only, and I think it's really cool because no matter what, you're going to get something, and some of you are going to get, you know, something awesome, even more awesome than just getting free rares and mythics that aren't bulk, or mostly not bulk. So yeah, check that out. There's a link in the description. I'm going to be expanding on this more and more. So, you know, the earlier you get in, the sooner you fit all the requirements, and that's that. And plus you're supporting Delver Brews. And the more people support Delver Brews, the more I can do this, the more cards I can give away. I just find it a really cool aspect of the channel. Thanks, and have a good one.